What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back for yet another album, or another band's album ranking. I put out a poll on my community tab on the YouTube page asking for you guys, what band did you want to see me rank their discography of next? And I think by a wide margin, this band came out on top, and that is, of course, Alice in Chains. So this is going to be a great one because Alice in Chains, one of my all-time favorite bands. I believe if I had to go back through my top 10 favorite bands, they are currently at number 7 right now. So these guys are very, very important to me and my musical life. They're just masters at their craft, and we're going to be talking about all 6 of their main studio albums. I'm not going to include EPs in my discography rankings because it would just feel kind of unfair a little bit, but maybe there might be some exceptions to the rules coming in the future. But before we get into it, let's talk about the history of Alice in Chains before getting to their debut album. So, Alice in Chains first started back in 1987 under a completely different lineup and a completely different sound, as Alice in Chains with the IN with N was just the letter N with the apostrophe, similar to Guns N' Roses. After all, one of Alice in Chains' first early influences was Guns N' Roses, the one band out of that LA scene that they really, really enjoyed and were inspired by because of the more aggressive, dangerous element on top. And ultimately, the early incarnation of Alice in Chains, they kind of looked like Guns N' Roses, a little bit glammy, but not quite, a little bit more prettier, but musically, Lane Staley described it as guys in makeup playing speed metal songs, like playing among their influences at the time, like Metallica and Merciful Fate and Judas Priest and so on and so forth. But then once Lane got other members within, such as Jerry Cantrell on guitar, Sean Kinney on drums, and Mike Starr on bass, they would go under a completely different sound change, going from their kind of glammy, speedy stuff to more doomy metal, punching you right in the face. I know people want to claim Alice in Chains are one of the perennial grunge bands from that Seattle scene. And while, yes, they came from Seattle, to me, they were never a grunge band. To me, grunge is more punky and more like punk and metal and alternative music combined. To me, Alice in Chains does not fit that bill. They do not fit grunge, in my opinion. To me, they fit more in line with a band like Saint Vitus, a band like The Obsessed, a band like Trouble, a band like Pentagram, even Black fucking Sabbath. I think Alice in Chains, to me, are a doom metal band. They are slow-paced, they are dark, they are heavy, and we're going to talk about all that starting now. So with this new lineup of Lane, Jerry, Sean, and Mike coming together in 1989 to record, and in 1990 released their classic debut album, Facelift. I love this album. There are some really classic Alice in Chains songs that most people know. We Die Young, Man in the Box, of course. Those are probably the two songs most people associate with this album, but there are some other great songs on here that I feel don't get enough love, like Sea of Sorrow, Bleed the Freak, I Can't Remember, Love, Hate, Love. Even a song like Sunshine, which is probably one of their more upbeat songs, was really cool as well. Real Thing, I Know Something About You. Top to bottom, this album's glorious. This is my number 2 album, by the way. Not quite their best, but man, what a debut to get things going. It was definitely raw, it was passionate, it was incredible to hear these 4 guys coming out with this Black Sabbath-inspired sound. I mean, granted, Soundgarden was kind of doing that around the same time as well, but to me this was just even darker, just like Sabbath back in their classic run. And Facelift, I mean, top to bottom, and crazy to think, before the singles, like before Man in the Box really broke through in around mid-91, Alice in Chains did this Clash of the Titans tour, opening up for Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax, replacing Death Angel, after Death Angel had a near-fatal bus accident. And on that tour, they got booed and pelted with garbage, and with their attitude of being like, we don't give a shit, we're gonna beat you up if you fuck with us, or we'll throw right back, they showed that they are metal. They really were metal. And it's ironic, Man in the Box broke out on the radio about a month or two after the tour, and everybody that threw the beers at them went out and bought this album. So it was just a thing, like, nobody knew what to make of them at the time, but then once the album started making the rounds, more people latched onto it, myself included later in my life. But then after Facelift, the band would start to take a bit of a shift in their sound. It would get heavier and much more dark. And in 1992, well, prior to the release of this album, they would release their first of 2 EPs, the Sap EP, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to get into talking about the next album, and that is 1992's Dirt. This is my number one. I kind of figured this would be number one going through it. I thought this would be my clear-cut number one, and it still is my clear-cut number one. I mean, this album, one of the darkest albums of the 90s, and one of the heaviest albums in terms of more mainstream stuff that you had heard during the 90s. I mean, Facelift was glorious, but man, this is Alice in Chains to me. You start off with Them Bones, which is almost proggy because of the time signature shifts. 3/4, 4/4 going everywhere in the time signature category. Songs like Rain When I Die, which is a dark, heavy track. Down in a Hole, one of the best ballady songs of all time, and one of the saddest songs ever. Sick Man, where Sean Kinney gets to unleash all kinds of hell on the drums kit, like with that opening drum intro. One of the best drum intros to a song during this decade. Rooster, maybe my favorite Alice in Chains song of all time. I mean, it's probably the song most people know, aside from Man in the Box, that people know about the band. It is just, I mean, the true story about Jerry Cantrell's father in Vietnam. It's powerful stuff. The title track, one of the most depressing songs you'll ever hear. Even the little Iron Gland 43-second little ditty there that they did with Tom Araya from Slayer, I thought that was cool. But then we get to the final 2 tracks, Angry Chair and Wood. Angry Chair is one of the heaviest songs. Wood, a great closer, and it was on the movie Singles, the soundtrack for that movie. But I mean, Dirt, the darkest, doomiest, heaviest thing I think they did, at least for a while. This was glorious, and this would be the final album with Mike Starr in the band, as eventually he would be replaced by Mike Inez, former Ozzy Osbourne bass player, future Black Label Society player. He's been out there, and this is the best thing he was a part of. But yeah, Dirt, my number one. So after the Dirt tour that they did, yeah, Mike Starr was fired out of the band due to his drug abuse and replaced by Mike Inez from Ozzy Osbourne. And together, the first thing they did was the 1994 Jar of Flies EP. But the first studio album they did together would be 1995's Alice in Chains, or the Dog album, or the Tripod album, because of the 3-legged dog on the cover of the album. This was another notable shift, mainly in the production. The production got a little more raw, songs got a little bit heavier, the doom and sludginess was really shown on this album. This album, to me, is my number 5 album, second to last, and I'm going to emphasize something. There is no bad Alice in Chains album. Every album they've done is glorious in their own unique way. This one, to me, this is one of the least experienced albums for me, because the production kind of waned on me a little bit. I mean, I like raw production when done right. This, to me, the production just felt a little bit disjointed at times. But there are some great songs on here. Grind, Heaven Beside You, Head Creeps, again. But the best thing about this entire album, Frogs, the second to last song, I think the longest song they ever did. It's almost 8.5 minutes. It is dark, it is brooding, murky, and then you end off with another great song in Over Now. So there are some great songs on here. It's just the production, again, kind of waned on me. That's the only problem I have, and also I just haven't had as much experience with this album as albums previously. But again, that could all just come down to several factors, given taste or which you prefer, and that's kind of what it boils down to. It's just the other stuff I prefer over this one, but it is a great album. There are some heavy songs on here, some memorable songs on here. Just my only complaint about it, the production could have been a little bit better in terms of the gelling as well as not waning on me. So after the release of the self-titled Tripod album, the band would continue touring and so on and so forth, but for some reason they didn't make another studio album for a long time after this. In fact, they did record 2 songs for a couple different things. They did the song Get Born Again and Died, and those were the last 2 originals that they wrote and recorded and released prior to the unfortunate death of legendary singer Lane Staley in 2002 when he died of a drug overdose. And this came as a massive shock to the hard rock metal community because Lane was such a one-of-a-kind singer. Kind of took the Jarl of the Seattle grunge era, but made it sound so incredible. Made it sound more dark, somber, melodic. I mean, and also a solid guitarist. Like, he would write riffs and play some riffs on rhythm at times. So, very consummate musician, amazing singer, and he's someone that we truly deeply miss. So after Lane's death, the band sat dormant for a few years. 2006 comes around, the band is back together, and at first doing a reunion show with different singers coming on stage to do songs, such as in European festivals they would do songs with people like Maynard James Keenan from Tool on vocals, James Hetfield from Metallica doing some songs vocally with them. And that was all before they would officially announce their new singer and rhythm guitarist, William Duvall, who may not be Lane Staley in terms of a singer, but he is great in his own right, and he does add his own spin on the Alice in Chains songs, and I do appreciate what he brings to the table. And together with this new lineup of William, Jerry, Sean, and Mike Inez still together, they come together and in 2009 would release one of the best comeback albums in metal history, Black Gives Way to Blue. This album is absolutely incredible, one of the heaviest albums they ever did. This is my number 3 album. Welcome back. After a 14-year hiatus between studio releases, we get this one, and wow, does it have a lot to it. I mean, you kick it off with 2 great back-to-back songs, All Secrets Known, Check My Brain, and then we get more greats like Your Decision, which kind of fits in line with that almost Jar of Flies, Tripod-era sound in terms of the songwriting, and it was brilliant. A Looking in View, the first single they released, and this was a doomy, sludgy song right here. Other great ones like Acid Bubble, Lesson Learned, one of my favorites off of here. And then the final track, the title track, featuring Elton John on piano. This goes to show you how influential Alice in Chains truly was. If they could get fucking Elton John to come in and play piano for you, that's making a big statement right there. And this album, I mean, top to bottom, it's just magnificent. Great comeback after hiatus, major tragedy with Lane gone and going through so much, and they finally get this out, and it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. My number 3. So the band would tour incessantly on this album for the next couple of years, and then we get to the recording of their next album, and this next album got delayed quite a bit. They started the recording process of this back in July of 2011, but during the process of writing and recording, Jerry Cantrell underwent shoulder surgery, which resulted in the album getting delayed even further. However, the recording for the album was finally concluded in December 2012, which also around December 2012, they would release the first single from the album, which I will talk about later. Now, as far as the album title, the band held this little thing on their Facebook page with an anagram of the following letters. HVLE, or hold on, HVLEN, pardon me, I am stumbling my words. HVLEN basically asking the fans to try and figure out what does this anagram mean? The title of the new album. Can you guess it? And after asking fans to decode the anagram, the next day would announce the title of this album. Song titles revealed in March. And in the summer, or late spring, heading into the summer of 2013, they would release The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here. Kind of a silly title, but when you think about it, it actually kind of gives the album a bit of a sinister vibe. And this is another fantastic album, a great follow-up. This is my number 4, by the way, although these two could be interchangeable. This could be 3 one time, this could be 4. It goes back and forth, but for right now, this is my number 4. I love this album. Arguably the heaviest album they ever did, the most sinister and evil-sounding album they ever did as well. And also, lyrically, the lyrics got a little bit more dark in terms of the sinister vibe, as opposed to the depressive vibe, so to speak. Although there are a couple of songs that kind of have a bit of that depressive veneer. Songs like Voices and Hung on a Hook and Choke. But most of the songs on here just has a sinister tone on top of it. The song Hollow, which opens the album, the first single, great way to open it up. A song like Stone, which has a doominess on top. But the highlight of this album to me is the title track, The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here. One of my favorite songs. The darkest song in terms of the evil vibe it gives off. This, to me, felt like Alice in Chains really channeling their inner Black Sabbath to me. And also, musically, it kind of reminds me of like a mixture of Frogs and Angry Chair to an extent. It kind of has elements of both of those songs in terms of the tone, the riffing style, but it just made for an incredible track. Songs like Lab Monkey, Scalpel, and Phantom Limb, basically revolving around Jerry Cantrell's shoulder surgery. Phantom Limb, another song that sounds like it could have been written by Black Sabbath. It was just glorious. It is heavy. It is evil. And then, like I said, the song Choke, which has that more depressive vibe, but it's an amazing song to close out a fantastic follow-up to their comeback. My number 4, Devil Put Dinosaurs Here. So after the band toured a lot, and I mean they toured a lot for The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, and to the point where they didn't actually start, recording the next album until the summer of 2017, and was recorded up until January of 2018. And towards the end of summer in 2018, we would get the release of their latest album, their 6th studio album, Rainier Fog. Now, Rainier Fog, this is my last place one, and it's not that it's bad, it's actually a really good album. Really good. Highly recommend you check it out. The reason why it's last is because it is kind of an odd listen. It seemed like half of the songs, it went for that heavy doom metal sound, and then the other half, they were going for more of that, like, softer sound, which I do really like that idea, where Disturbed tried to do that in 2018 with their album Evolution, and to me, it failed miserably. Here, because these guys are amazing songwriters and musicians, they were able to do that balance perfectly. Some of the heavier songs, like The One You Know, the opening track, first single, which was my favorite song off the album, just heavy, doomy, what else could you say? A song like Fly kind of had that middle ground between a heavy song and a softer song. The song Rainier Fog, a little bit more hard rock based. So Far Under, another heavy doomy song. Never Fade, another one of them softer tracks. And the same goes for the closing song, All I Am. And All I Am was a great way to conclude this really good album. Really, the big reason why it's last place, or two reasons. One, it's just that they kind of was lacking a little bit in the heaviness in the songs, even though there was plenty of heavy stuff. To me, they were going for that balance, and to me it did it well, but also the reason why it's last, it's the one I've had the least amount of time with. After all, it is the latest thing that they've put out. But that's all I can say, and that is my ranking of the Alice in Chains studio discography. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below. What do you think is the best Alice in Chains album? What are your rankings? I would love to see your guys' opinions in the comments below. And until next time, there will be another poll coming out for what band you want to see me rank next. Until then, horns high, and I will see you soon. I don't want to do this, but I have no other option.
No! Please! Is it what
I feel like I'm about to commit the biggest genocide of all time on this show.
Wait,
my number 7?
No,
my number 7? Behemoth the Satanist.
No! 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 No!
And now Hannah's going to hide in the shadows.
Damn you!
Everybody.
Why?
Die.
Why?
You